Hello, hello. Welcome to the Total Truth Show, episode 37. My name is Aldwyn, Altuney from the Gold Coast in Australia.
And my name is Ken Kleinberg, coming to you all the way from San Diego County, California of the USA.
And I'm Shirley Jackson from Adelaide, South Australia. Thank you.
And we have a hot topic today, which we will be covering, all about the truth about workplace safety and the health system. We'll be coming back in just a minute after this short introduction.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show, hosted by myself, Ken Kleinberg from San Diego County, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
And our goal here on this show is to help you to break away from the mainstream media propaganda and lies, the disinformation and misinformation that's out there in the mainstream, and really help you to start questioning everything and start doing the research for yourself. We want to punch through all of that disinformation and misinformation. Our goal here is to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass and then pave the way for a new awakened civilization. And we would love for you to come along for the ride. Don't take our word for it. The things that we share here on the show, that goes for our guests too. Start doing the research for yourself. Start going and asking the questions for yourself. Get out there and really find the real truth behind things. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Yes,
Thanks,
welcome.
Ken.
Welcome. Now, our special guest today, Shirley Jane Jackson, all the way from Adelaide in South Australia. Now, she's been a nurse for 63 years, and she had a fall in 2008 after doing 78 hours of constant work. So we're going to have a chat with her in just a minute. I just want to say before we have a chat with Shirley that we are dedicating today's show to my beautiful cat Tiger, who passed away yesterday. We buried him this morning. He was here at the Happy House in Southport for 15 years, and Tiger's in our hearts and in our thoughts today as we do this show. And I'm a little bit vulnerable and I may cry at any moment as we go through this show. So just bear with me if that happens. Now, Shirley and I are also in this book here together, Elevate Your Mindset. She is a co-author in this book as well, which came out about 10 years ago, thanks to Authentic Education, Ben Harvey, Cham Tang, etc. 48 plus another 15 years, so 63 years as a registered nurse for our beautiful Shirley here. And then she was working in Central Australia as well, and she's fighting now to help people who are working, help them to work reasonable hours and not inhumane long hours. And I must say in business that many people in business work ridiculously long hours too, Shirley. I must say, not just
I know we do.
Yes.
Those 19 and 20-hour days just have to be put behind us. We do.
Yes.
Because we're smart. We can do that.
Yes. So 78 hours of constant work. So can you explain a bit about how this came to be? I mean, how did you end up doing 78 hours?
I better brief. Okay. Yeah. I'll give you a brief landscape. So it's all red soil. We're in basic huts and we live in cages. It's like we're incarcerated for our own safety in that time. They're very strict with rules, etc. And having come from Flinders University, part of my role was also principal academic in checking out people's work procedures and safety procedures, that sort of thing. So I loved my work, and I had about 10 years of going backwards and forwards in different communities, the Alice Springs Hospital, in the Todd River, out with the ambulances at night, and also driving across paddocks with bulls and cows to find a little airstrip or a road somewhere where you're going to rendezvous with an ambulance, but it may have taken you 8 hours dark driving and only your headlights because you're just under the Milky Way. So it's every bit as exciting as it is challenging. I've absolutely loved my work in this area and was just devastated when my career came to an end. 78 hours, you ask, what would I be doing in that time? we would be driving, responding to situations, what we call call-outs, and general attendance of running a full-on clinic through the day. And there may only be one of you. There might be two if you're lucky, and there might be three if it's really appropriate. But no, we're not staffed well. And apart from that, the training has been very sparse for a lot of people that are working in those areas. So apart from the training side of it, my mission is to see that if people were to engage in any form of a workplace hurt or harm, then that we can look after them in more holistic ways. And I want to really work towards a whole new framework. It has to change. It's not worked for a number of years. I was an employer back in the 80s who paid private insurance for employee indemnity. So I know how the old system worked. I've worked with both, with employees and people. My concern is human beings. And I think we're getting lost with our AI and everything that we can do. Adelaide was the first trial with robots of dishing out medication in our Royal Adelaide Hospital. And I set a bold claim in or the year 2000 with my colleagues at Flinders. You wait and see, nursing will be one of the first careers to be roboticised. And they laughed at me. And I thought, okay, you laugh. I've sat through Dan Burris about 30, 40 years ago. He's a lovely scientist who's visiting for our science festival. I recommend people try to go and see Dr. Dan if you can. But his predictions and connections of how he sees the future going. One, he is very accurate in his game. Everything I listened to in the 70s has come to fruition, and we're to the point of beyond. So I'm quite excited of listening to what he sees coming ahead. But at the same time, your premise of we're wanting to do good here. We're not wanting to harm. I'm not wanting to plant false ideologies into people that just aren't true. But at the beginning of my situation, I had a torn collateral lateral ligament, should have been like a footballer's injury, and back at work within 6 or 8 weeks. Oh no. Once you get caught with work cover, 15 years later, I sit here with original injuries that still have not been treated or corrected, and the impact that that's having on my body. And I don't know that anyone's been successful with a negligence claim with work cover. And for myself, I will be pressing, and I'm really calling accountability. They don't like it. I don't like it. It's been very stressful on me. I would like to be able to break away from the system, but the harsh reality for me, the cost of my care as a person with 70% measured injury, plus what we've gone through in the last 3 years to go to that, it's very close to needing full-time care to have any quality of life or do all the things I was doing at the time I met you. So it's a crazy...
I'm sorry to hear that this has happened. I just want to get back to this, the accident that actually had. So you had a fall. How did this fall happen? What was the exact injuries from that?
It was like an emergency setting in the morning, but we have to shovel poop away from our doors to be able to get out of wherever might be our confined living space or whatever. A lot of harassment and that sort of behaviour goes on. You get to the clinic for 8:30 start, you've got to shovel fresh poop that's been put at the door for you. We went in and it was just mayhem that morning. It's almost like anything that could have happened did. Half the team that were meant to be there were going on to a different community to be able to service that community for the day. And we were left to ourselves, and I knew there was only going to be 2 of us. However, in that time from 9 o'clock, I'd say my injury happened around 9:30 is what I'm saying, because I have this rush of arriving at work and people, sister, everyone wanting you at once, and trying to triage and get to where I needed to be. I had a young man who'd had a trailer fall on his arm. He had a crush injury, and the full professional, Shirley in the nursing status, has to quickly make an appraisal and a diagnosis. I have nothing to do any x-rays or anything like that. So your primary skills of diagnosing and being able to observe and your years of experience go into this. And I think for me, I'd been taking care of the guy with the crushed wrist, and then all of a sudden the other senior nurse who was a regular in that community, I was an intake worker, and she just said, here, I need you to swap. You take the kid and I'll go on with this. So I walked to where I didn't even know what was happening, but I had approximately a 15-month-old baby whose eyes were rolling in the back of the head. She was so close to febrility and having a fit that it was really a full-on emergency for an infant who I knew could die very quickly. And we have language barriers because none of us have Indigenous language. So if they present with their own families, that could mean they might bring 30 people into the clinic. And we don't have the space, we don't have any security, we don't have anyone to help the crowd organisation. So it was a case of me not being able to have the room to manoeuvre and work and try and save this child as quickly as we could. And in the meantime, I've started to arrange for the child to have tepid bath and mother splashing water while I'm trying to get what the child needed medicinally to try and get that fit that was right there under control. And I went to move and there were too many little people at my knee height. Probably, they would be anything from 10 months to 18 months at my height, because we have a lot of intervention with fetal health syndrome and from the alcohol or drug addictions and things in the communities. It can be very sad at times, a lot of what we do have to endure. My first day being operative on the road, they just said, right, they were heading off. I was it. So I was left in this unknown place and environment. My first call comes through from police who are 500 kilometres away from where we are, saying so-and-so is about to hang themselves. You need to go out, just step outside and yell out, help. Someone will come from somewhere. They're all kind of rather shy. And some of them will be doing their art or other activities or just women group chat and the men hang out together, that sort of thing. But so that was one of the first confrontations for me. It wasn't my first, unfortunately, but the work is very raw. It's very hard. When I say hard, if you're an empathetic person and you love human life, it's a challenge because you just want to make sure that every person lives and survives is our goal out there. And yes, we can do that. And I haven't lost a person in my care out there. But as for the time, through those days, we were just so busy through that 78-hour period that concurrently you'd be ducking in to try and get some soup or a dal or something going to feed people while we're on our feet trying to work. You've got to have energy and proper food going, whatever. So I can tend to try and do those things. So all of a sudden these out, you just feel like you're useful, you're helpful. 1 minute you're in an ambulance, 1 minute you're cutting down somebody's body and dealing with their life and their loved ones. Let alone our own needs. But our own needs just don't, they're not high on our priority out there, because once we're there to serve, and we really are kept extremely busy during that time.
So where was it exactly again? Where are we talking about?
Okay, I will say broadly for the sake of litigation and stuff, that it was in the APY lands, which is still part of South Australia's Indigenous community. And so it's a different section. It goes up to the border of Alice Springs, but it's run by Northern Territory Health. But APY Lands is actually in South Australia, which is interesting politically, but that's a different thing altogether.
Right. So there's like a desert area, Central Australia. For those who don't know Australia,
absolutely,
Central Australia,
as desert, yeah,
and when
just
we say
red dirt.
Yeah, red dirt.
Yeah.
We say Indigenous, so Aboriginal people. For those who know that the original people of Australia were the Indigenous, the Aboriginals, and
Yes.
in these communities, was there a lot of drinking and abuse and drug use and things like that in these communities?
Yes, there were. There's communities that seem to have maintained better control with that, and it's often the women in the communities who have stepped through and based on a Kiwi model of how they would just stop their men from drinking at night, and they just bandied together as women bravely to go out there and deal with the calamity of what happens when alcohol is misused. But it's quite common in some spaces of my work to find 8-year-olds with a petrol can or a jam tin about that size of the coffee cup, and they'll be sold. They can go and actually ask for that amount of petrol just so they can sip. So we have white people out there that sell the petrol to let them sniff, knowing that it's going to impact their brain and their lives, or some of them that might be pregnant. Then we have infant alcohol syndrome to deal with. Everything is ultra precious and high risk out there because you're very aware that you are a visitor on their territory. They have their own laws around that. We have to respect and do as much as we can their way. Yeah.
Got it. So I can imagine that would be a very stressful situation to be in, and with very few staff, very few nurses by the sound of it, with the number of people you were treating and working those crazy hours. I mean, accidents, could easily happen.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
And we just transfer that. There's nothing unique about me having been out there. We have people out there every day, and a lot of Australians and probably other parts of the world and people listening to this won't realise that I have Red Cross with me out in Central Australia. I have World Health to come and work with me out there. I've worked with a bricklayer from Sydney who couldn't spend time with his wife because she was out there working. So he gave up bricking. They go out there, have a family. He educated, ended up being a double certificated registered nurse, and delivers his own babies and the babies in the community. So there are some communities that function better than others, and it would not be for me to judge why that. I've made lots of observations about it, but we have many. It's not like we have just our original landowners and Australians. It's a much bigger argument than that, and they are equally very entrenched in trying to maintain their family line. I mean, I'm from an Irish background, so I'm used to clans and groups and things like that, so I can handle that. Actually, I love it out there. I really do. I've absolutely loved my work and been so passionate about it. And after 15 years of how the system works and impacts you, I've reached a point of being in quite profound poverty from having used my funds and what I had from work cover for further education, because I became so determined that I have to make a difference in this space. And I was prepared to put up whatever it was going to cost me to get there. And I've given that a damn good shove, as in trying to travel the world for different parts of education that have contributed towards my mindset and things that I have done. And, I try to test out theories, also interested in innovation and creation and the development of more comfortable product line for people with disability who need implements and whatever. So it's an interesting journey. It's frustrating dealing with the bureaucracy, and it's been absolutely mind-blowing seeing how they operate and can actually call themselves a business. And that's where, when you think, what accountability do we have in citizens' duty to yours and my business skills might be up here, And some of these other people who are running these countries haven't put anything in their head for 50, 60, 70 years that, you know, we've got older people that are still in the workforce. And I'm all for that, unless I don't use the word retirement. It doesn't fit my vocabulary because I'm just a doer. And I've been a doer since I was 9 years old. My father had cancer at home. I learnt to be one of the carers in the family section of what was involved with that. And sadly, he passed when I was 13 years old. And I was formally enrolled for my nurse training by the time I was 16. So I've basically not had a childhood. I've just put it all into my profession. And I knew from the time I was about 4 that all I ever wanted to do was go and work in Central Australia. And I grew up in a very racist family. So my family don't necessarily support my work or my ideologies or whatever, but that's okay. I think sometimes you've got to have a really direct experience or a specialty in some of these areas to even get your head around it, because it's so different to what we see with our blended societies of multicultural Australia so successfully in the rest of our country, that it's like, why does it just not work in these areas? You know, we have a better rate of success with our immigrants than our own Indigenous people. So it is getting better in many ways. A lot of them are accessing education, etc. But I think that they won't really gain empowerment or get there until there needs to be more cohesion between them, that there's a lot of disrest amongst the variety of clans, and there's so many of them, and it's starting to get very rowdy like we've never seen in our country. But we can't refer to our Indigenous as black. Colour doesn't even come into it. Quite honestly, guys, when I'm trying to put a gelco in or get a line and get you connected very quickly, you feel for where you're going. You don't look. If I'm looking at a black arm, it's hopeless. So I take my glasses off well and truly before you get out there. People are people. It's what you feel. It's not so much what you're looking for. And, see that they have access to good treatment, fair treatment, and the best we can possibly provide, and see if they need transferring to one of our important major hospitals in any of our states, and they share the load. We, triage that over a day or a period of working out the flights backwards and forwards. So it's a big role. It's a big job for enrolled nurses or registered nurses who go to work in these communities. And I'd say you do need to be highly skilled, because I do also believe we're becoming a very litigious society, and we are going out there with skills and degrees and things that at one time weren't in the country. So they need to respect that they have got true professionals out there, and what we report to them. But unfortunately, what you see and what you say is not always like going through. I can be watching movies and see people that have actually cut and clipped, and things that you think are there just aren't there. And living out there can be a bit like that, because that is...
Just stop you there, just because we haven't got much time on this interview. You've got to leave in about 6 minutes. So just very quickly, how many nurses roughly to how many patients would be out there in what, just to get a picture of the environment?
Oh, wow. I can't even tell you that, because in the last 3 years, I haven't been as intricately involved as I had been previously. I can access and get to that information. I'd love to get back to you with that. It's roughly. Look, I would go to a community and they say, well, you've got a population of 300 and there might be 3 of us.
Oh,
okay. And that population can come and go. But all of a sudden you might have 600 because they decide to hold a football carnival and you don't know it's going to happen.
Okay, gotcha.
And you need to have had black condoms and do all sorts of things to be hospitable and accept them. But it's very different rules out there. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So today's topic, the truth about workplace accidents and the health system. Now, we know that often a lot of people call the health system the sickness industry, right? There's a lot of people actually get more sick often when they go into hospitals than not. Sometimes, right? So, so your experience about that, and what would you like to share there about what we don't know about workplace accidents and the health system from your experience with work cover, etc.?
Well, from one really important point, particularly for those in Australia or wherever you are, actually, because you will have an organisation somewhere, if you're in a first world country, that's overseeing this and should be accountable, even if they're not. But we've got in Australia the Fair Work Process, which is the global head for Australia. But as I do my research, every state is different. We all have different laws around our work safe. I mean, yes, the premise is keeping your mates safe and everyone getting home at the end of the day. But to me, my book, Seriously Injured Worker, I believe is more about seeing that from cradle to grave, people take on a mindset of introducing, even to kids, in picking up toys. Don't just say, pick up your toys. Just let them know why they're doing it. Give them a rationale that's going to ping in their head. It will anchor them for the rest of their lives. And they'll know that, gee, by picking up, we're saving one another, mummy and daddy, from tripping over or nana. It's basic life skills. And I would like to even be talking to kids in schools. I don't care how young they are. I think people from 8-year-old till 100, if they want to remain connected in what is happening in the industry and to people who go to work every day. The majority of people, they start a job, you get a pack from your employer, say sign here, you tend to sign there and transfer your number. And in my situation, it's even turned out that the superannuation company hadn't been transferring numbers, but a major super for nurses here in Australia has actually got 10 accounts for me. Can you believe it? And you lost interest in it, all that goes on. Then you get into how it affects your livelihood, it destroying you, things that are happening, decisions that you're not even involved in. You get little say, and pretty much what is dished up is what you're meant to survive on. And for example, this shoulder that's waiting on surgery has taken 15 months, and I have my own private insurance as being a resident, but I can't use it because this is a work injury, and that's who needs to pay the bill to the government. But if I was living in New South Wales, I would, or any other state, I could have a claim for PTSD or for trauma for the things that I have gone through and the PTSD that I do suffer, and the nights that you do lay awake. I don't know if that little child on my shift died or not. And that is really important to me. If she was somebody's child, relative, and a dear little darling baby. But I'd gone down. I was unconscious for 3.5 hours with no help or care. When we woke up, there was no one there. And we think that I am actually trying to live with an acquired brain injury, which you would have even known me in that time. So learning and pushing through for me is quite a challenge, but I'm determined to not let them have my brain, and I'm determined to keep doing what I can. But patches of stuff I have lost, and I have to work very hard at retrieving it. But I do believe I can retrieve it. And a lot of the work and education we've been exposed to, we can actually, those neurons and everything are far more flexible than we ever thought. And I just consider, well, there's been perhaps a tsunami over my way and there's a bit of cleaning up to do. But for however long it takes, you just have to get into your own training and retrain yourself. You can't get mental health help at my age in our state.
Right.
As an Australian, can you believe that?
You can't get mental health help for some. And can I ask when you say your age, what are we looking at?
I have just turned 70. And I had a brain event 3 years ago. They're saying event because it doesn't show up. Fortunately, it's not showing as a TIA or a stroke. but I am noticing enough bridges for me with conversation and work that I do that I know that I have to kind of push through and I can do this. So that's where I'm at. But meanwhile, while you're laying around, I think keeping people waiting for major surgery, my shoulders detached at the back and to the front. The weight of an arm that's limp that just hangs, the other one will do the same within a year if they don't get cracking. And I don't know what this nonsense is about no negligence with work cover. My life is full of negligence and I'm left as quite a mess. And I believe that ageism has definitely influenced my recovery by what I've seen other people have offered and put on the plate. And they're only just offering me the best of people in the recovery industry now because they don't know what to do. And so we have somebody else involved as a mediator and that sort of thing to try and get things happening.
So quickly wrapping up, because I know you have to run off soon. And you know, as you're saying this, I'm thinking to myself, well, you know, great challenges are not given to small souls, as they say, right? So we're presented with some massive challenges here. So just quickly in point form, just what would you say needs to change when it comes to workplace accidents happening and with the health system?
Well, they have to listen to us, and there is so much stigma and such a filthy attitude around work injury, people trying to go back to work, people you thought were your mates, or some of them you might have worked with for 20 years or something. And if you're assigned to a lighter duty, then you get all that negativity about, oh, she's got, you know, 2 less than me and I shouldn't have all this. And it is not pleasant for people trying to return to work or get back into their original position. Sometimes a career change is necessary. The legislation that greatly impacted me was 2008 legislation, which really they did say to me, so you can't start a business and we're not going to support you with any of that learning. And basically, if you can't go back as a nurse, you're on the scrap heap. But they don't say that now. And I'm at the age now with the health system in such a mess that, yeah, they're kind of interested in getting me back. They'd like to have what I've got and what I know. And, yeah, we'll be looking at ways. It's a whole career change for me because I love the idea of doing the travelling and being on stage and talking, and the crowds don't faze me. And it is a big job to be done. There's so many people affected by this. Yeah, so I just would like to get this surgery behind me and be able to move forward. Yeah.
Got it. And would you like to ask any final questions?
So I just actually have one question here. So are you currently in pursuit of a lawsuit against these people?
I would like to say that I am. I have a solicitor who is paid by work cover that will sort out the things they're prepared to pay for. But in terms of any justice or trying to actually see there's accountability or people actually held responsible and that sort of thing, you'd have no idea what they put you through. In 22, I had something like 14 medical examinations on specialists. Some of them went for 5 and 7 hours. You know, what they put you through, you're more like a prisoner than a human being. And you are definitely being dehumanized through the situation. It's disgraceful. And I could make your hair curl. So, you know, we'll be looking at through my recovery of me becoming a podcaster in the best way that I can to both educate and deliver information and news so that people know. Injured workers generally, I'm not your typical injured worker. They're so intimidated and afraid of them. Mostly they won't speak or open their mouth. I'm very outspoken and I've even published about it. Most people wouldn't even dare. It's such a hornet's nest. And even solicitors are walking away. But when you go to see a professional and they're kind of berating the industry of work cover, that flack goes back onto you. I should not be carrying the stress of their distaste and governance and work cover bodies need to bring that together so that individuals are not being harmed, bullied or berated under part of their care. It's still part of their duty of care. I just don't see how they think they can get away with it. And I will keep pressing and ringing for solicitors. I don't mind if I have an international solicitor, but I'm needing pro bono help to really fight this. But it is fighting. I believe it's a good fight. It's for every person who leaves home every morning to see that they return to their family in the best possible shape that they can, and that they have a life ahead of them, instead of finding yourself sitting in a theatre to watch Mary Poppins and there's no grandchildren left in your life. You know, that the impacts and the cost to your life and your family are enormous. So it's quite a message to get out there. I can tailor that to what people want or need. If it's a workplace that would like a seminar, I think there's good work to be done on introducing and the training and the way we bring people into the workforce. And I think that education needs to start so much earlier, because a lot of our children are starting through our franchisee model working. And a lot of that works really good. One of my adult kids owns 6 franchises of one group. So it can be a very good thing, but they ended up with their business degrees and everything behind it, but they've been well looked after. And kids are working really well, but working or having a work injury is, in our own family, just unacceptable, because we were so proactive with work cover safety. It was me who went off, did all the training in the business side of it, and because kids were helpful and they were paid and remunerated well, that we would teach them you don't leave that strapping there, and we would explain to them why and where things go, and everything had a place. And that's just the way I think people need to be a lot more proactive, especially if they are employing beyond, say, the 1 to 5 group. And all employers should look at updating staff training, because coaches and trainers, we're the ones that get around and go to the seminars and educate. Then we bring the knowledge back to you. So you pay us a sum to bring you the knowledge that you're not prepared to have a flight or go somewhere or take the interest that we do, but we can tailor it to their spreadsheets or what their budgets are in their organisation and make something work for them, because everybody needs to have safe and a safety attitude and mindset in the workplace. Everyone. Yeah. I don't care if it's the cleaner or if it's someone who's going to be making coffees or caring for staff or clients, that especially if you're having clients and other people on your property, you do have a duty to be a hostess on the property, to see that they're safe as they move around, that your stock's safe and it's not going out in their pockets. And there's a lot of things that come into play that we think of as trainers. It saves other people having to stretch their brain about all of those things. But I'm a person that's always had a busy head, and my first child had cerebral palsy, and I had a great interest in brain from then on. And sadly, Andrew did die as a public patient in our children's hospital in South Australia, and it was it's a hospital-acquired death. I need retribution from this state. They do have to listen to that. We were very young at the time. My child was a ward of state because I was a young mum at 19. I was married, though, at 19, and my child still came outside within any time limits. But we didn't even know, as a young married couple, that if we started our family now, that the state wasn't going to let us own our children. But I think it was because he was so severely affected. However, when they gave him his bottle on night duty, instead of sitting him up and caring for him in the way he needed to be, they laid him down and he died. So that is something I can't forgive, professionally or personally. I have reached a stage in my life, I believe it's really important to find out who that person was, not for retribution, but that woman, most likely a female, would have been looking after my son. And every night as I say my prayers, I'm wondering if she's in a mental institution. Has she been cared for? Did anybody debrief her? We didn't debrief people back in the 70s. It came in later in the 70s. So those are the older nurses who have been around for a long time. We've done it rough. Anyone die on our shift, we were the undertaker come everything. It was all done through us. And for that to be an infant child and have a hospital director, I remember all these names. I do have all my details. I don't know that anyone in Adelaide's prepared to take this on for me, but I'm not going to drop it in my lifetime anyway, that we at least honour Andrew. And yeah, I'm a Christian. I believe in an afterlife, and I believe my 50-year-old son will be looking to greet his 70-year-old mum whenever that time comes. So the important things about that, linking back the injury to that workplace of where that child died, I'm left unknowing if my client died because they won't release the information. They don't believe it's helpful. Well, my own knowledge and extension of psychology, which I'm trained, would say it's essential for closure. I can strongly argue that. So absolutely. It's brought up a lot, and most people in the workforce are going to have something. It'll be like the day that your, darling puss passed away yesterday, and I lost a cat very closely. I know how devastated I was. And these things do happen, and WorkCover and the government has to realise we are human beings. We're not robots. AI is coming along very well, and thank you very much. But we must remember that we are human beings, and I don't believe we should be dehumanising people or entering into the slurring matches or the scrutiny that goes on about being injured. I had a young cab driver Saturday talk to me about my card that gives me a reduction on a cab because of my injury percentage. He looked at me and laughed and said, "What do you have to do to steal that?" I said, "I beg your pardon." So I went into my university tutoring mode and actually explained to him that would be like me opening the door and saying, "Oh God, no, what's your country? Where are you from? I'm not going with you." I said, "That's a racial slur." I said, "I've got a choice now. I can either educate you or I can get out, get in another cab and go home and report you." I said, "Now, you are a new immigrant. I'm very interested in education and training, and I'd like to give you this opportunity. I'll fill you in on what it means." So the conversation coming home in the cab definitely set this young gentleman right. I believe he'll get through his training at Adelaide Uni now. I've told him by next year, first semester, I'll probably be in one of his tutes anyway to come and say hello. So he might as well get used to it. I don't think he would ever dare speak to an older person again in the way he did me on Saturday.
Oh, look, there's so much disrespect now, I think, with a lot of people, a lot of younger generations. So much disrespect. I mean, that's a whole other topic. But as you were saying that, I'm really sorry to hear about your son. How old was your son when he passed?
15 months old one.
15 months. That's tragic.
A baby.
So sorry.
He had profound cerebral palsy. They can say, "Oh, well, he's better off now." All of those things. It's all bullshit. If you lose a child, I've lost 5 children in my journey of mothering, parenting. Andrew's, the others were 2 I had as miscarriage and 2 were ectopic pregnancies. But it opens up lots of topics and conversation, Aldwyn. A lot of people don't realise that where we live in Adelaide, we're very close to where the British were bombing. Okay, it could be an environmental issue as well. And we've got our Indigenous people living on these lands taking all the fallout of that stuff. We didn't relocate them or place them appropriately. It is quite potentially large, and I hope that this story hasn't been a dampener on the fact that you being good news, because if I did have more time, I'd really like to say to people about seeking out their own treatment, even if it's a nana or a stranger that offers you for a fast surgery, you've got just know you've got other options.
Yes.
Get several opinions. Don't believe what they tell you. Even if it's a lawyer, I don't care who they are. Don't believe what they tell you. Go and get other opinions until you get consensus and your own barometer, your sixth sense that I believe particularly every mother carries. You will know the person that's going to be able to help you and do this. And I need someone who's actually got the strength and intestinal fortitude to just try and make a bit of a reckoning for me for what I've experienced in my own life. And in the States, even I must get going, but it's been wonderful to be able to share with you and to your audience. And it's such an honour to have been able to be a guest for you today. And sorry I had a few hiccups there, but we're there.
Thank you so much, Shirley. And as you were sharing, I just put this link up here to an article online I found that says about 2.6 million people die each year due to medical errors. Right, so there's a good reason to question everything, to get second, third, fourth opinion. Trust your intuition, do your own due diligence. And Shirley, we also have here your link for Facebook. I've just put in here for those who want to connect with you. Is that the best way through Facebook?
Yes, or PM personal messenger. And I apologise for any interruptions because my media and everything is up for a good revamp, and everything keeps getting interrupted because of the demands of what the rehab puts on you, the expectations and what you have to go through. You've got to keep jumping hoops. You're just like a little dog at the show, trying to keep going for them. And it is exhausting, and it's not an energetic, healthy place to be in. But you take on what you can.
We wish you all the very best, Shirley, with everything.
Thank you.
We get how you've been through a lot of challenges. Is there a final quote you'd like to leave us with? We usually like to sort of wrap up our shows and give everyone a chance to share a quote or a motto you live by. Do you have something?
Well, most of my lives, when I was doing lives regularly for people, I've got I think there's over 400 lives here, so I might start using some of them to help me out through this situation. But I usually say to people to remember to smile and to be your own best friend, because if you don't take an interest in the things that are really impacting and affecting your entire life, like this is my family circle gone, I've lost everything through this situation, and you just have to take care of yourself, because you're not going to be able to take care of anyone else until you're sitting right and you get your energy and everything back to where it needs to be. So
absolutely. We'll wish you all the very best. Thank you so much, Shirley, for joining us.
Thank you.
Any final words for Shirley before she wraps up? We'll stay on longer, but we'll let you go.
So those of you that are still with us, we're going to stay on a few more things, a few more minutes. I do have some things to share. But Shirley, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being patient with all the lovely technology stuff that I know you had to jump through. Those were your hoops for this interview.
I'm looking forward to it now. And I'd love to talk to people about pain hacks or something another time, because I'm virtually doing very well with a high percentage of injury and what could be discomfort. But Aldwyn's seen how I manage. I bounce myself around, and you don't take any more than 10 kilos with a wheelchair. And can you believe people will still pinch 10 kilos off the back of your chair? It could be bathers in a wet towel. Yeah. That's the world, but hey, and then someone else might come up and say, have you got time to have a coffee with me? You look an interesting person or something. I get those funny quips too. So anyway, all right, God love you. And thank you to any listeners, thank you. And you can reach out if there's any way I can help you at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye-bye.
See you later. Thanks all the best. Bye. Wow. Oh my gosh. Shirley, she's been through some things. Hey, there's a whole book just there. That was just a snippet of her story. Wow. How'd you find all that, Ken?
Quite quite nerve-wracking, just the medical system out there, and you guys, it's not just the Australian system. It's overall. I mean, here's the thing. The doctors and stuff out there, there are doctors out there that I know are very well-intentioned in their heart. They have no clue. They have no clue that they've been brainwashed by the system. They have no clue. But this is literally what they're taught to do. You've got an ailment or something's going on or you've got a health issue. They are taught to go, okay, here, I'm going to prescribe you this. Go take this. That's what they're taught to do. They are not taught to give you better nutrition. They are not taught to show you things to stay away from, things that you need to do better in your own eating routine. They're not taught those things. They're not nutritionists. They should be. They 100% should be. They should be also taught other alternative, more natural medicine methods, but they aren't taught that. Why? The question you need to ask and the question you need to research is why. Don't just take my word for it with what I'm about to say here, but you've got to start asking the questions. So one of the reasons why they're not taught these things is on purpose, because the industry wants the doctors turning people back into the industry, back to pharmaceutical, back to big pharma, back to the whole system, so that system is a profit ground for them. It's not about your health. It's not about any of that kind of stuff. It's literally about profits. And unfortunately, there's a lot of doctors out there. They are blind to this kind of thing. They are literally blind to it. They think that they're doing the best. And shockingly, no, they're not. And the ones that are out there that are actually standing up, the ones that are out there that actually do know what's really going on out there in the medical industry, the big pharma industry, they're getting shut down. They are getting banned. They are getting censored. They are getting, all of this flack because they're out there literally telling the truth. These are the people you need to find, and these are the people that you need to listen to. The ones that are out there that are telling the truth. That's my bandwagon that I'll get off now.
Absolutely. And, also listening to your intuition and, the health system, and we say for humans and for animals. And I must say, it's challenging right now focusing on this conversation even, and just focusing on being present when I've just had basically a family member, what I consider my cat Tiger, passed away yesterday, 1 hour after I got back from Sydney. Within the hour, he passed away in front of us. And I hadn't taken him to the vet at all in the whole 15 years I had him. He was, he was abandoned. He was neglected, etc. when I got him, and he was very anxious initially. We just gave him lots of love. We did the best we could with the health treatment. The only time I took him to the vet was right at the end, when he basically had already taken his last breath, basically, which I didn't realize because he kind of, went back and let out a big scream, and then he was kind of like he was like coughing, but apparently the animals do this over time. And it was interesting, as I went to the vet and I was crying my eyes out trying to, they went straight to take the cat to an oxygen machine, but basically they said he's already dead. And I was telling them about how a lot of older cats have kidney problems and that they need water given to them. And a lot of people I'd spoken to had said this, and she said, I've never heard of this. This was a lady at the reception at the vet, at Green Cross Vets in South. And I'm sure there's lots of people there doing the best they can. But as a receptionist, she had no idea. She'd never heard of people syringing water into the cat's mouth to keep them hydrated, because a lot of older cats don't drink water, or they lose appetite. A lot of them get kidney issues and renal issues. And I was doing my own research last night. 20 to 50% of 15-year-old cats plus get kidney issues. And a lot of people, if they don't think to squirt some water into the cat's mouth to keep it hydrated, then what will happen is the cat will eventually dehydrate, and the kidneys are there. The function is to remove the toxins so it doesn't go into the bloodstream. So if the kidneys aren't working properly, the toxins are going to go into the bloodstream, And my cat was actually quite stiff. I mean, he was lying outside for most of the day, and I'm so grateful he hung on until I got home. However, unfortunately, we got to him a little bit too late. We were putting the water into him, but we didn't know any better, right? And this is where do your own research. And if you start to see signs that things aren't right, like the cat started to lose his appetite. When I went to Thailand, I went to Bali, I had people here that were looking after him. However, they do miss their owners as well. So there was a part of me that felt really guilty that I'd been away. And then I spoke to a beautiful animal communicator last night, Annie Burke. She's one of our mass media mastery clients as well. We had a great 2-hour conversation, and she said cats are usually just so loving and so appreciative. They don't want to, even if they're in pain, they don't want to show they're in pain. They don't want to put the owners out in any way. And so sometimes it can be hard to tell, but you've got to trust your intuition. And this is the same with sometimes with people in our life and with our own health. Maybe there's things going on in our body that we're not aware of. And so it's being able to sort of tune into, okay, how do I feel after I eat certain foods, or how do I feel? A lot of people just take pills and they think, oh, the pill will sort me. I've got a headache, I'll just take a Panadol, right? How many people just do that? And you think, well, if you take Panadols continuously over time, surely there's going to be side effects of these Panadols, as an example, right? As an example. So I'll bring it back to my cat here too, because a lot of vets, I'm sure there's a lot of amazing vets out there and people that work in vets that think they know all about animals, and that, but they don't. A lot of them don't. So you've got to do your own research and ask people around you. And thank God for social media that we can reach out to people a lot easier than ever before. However, the fact is that animals have emotions, they have feelings, and I'm sure my cat would have been a little bit also missing me. I think he was missing me while I was away. So, but the thing is, it went as it went. It went as it went. And, Ken, you have an aging cat and your cat looks very healthy. And maybe you could share a bit about when you started to notice your cat was not so healthy, what you did.
So there's actually a couple experiences here. So my mom actually had a cat for a while that she rescued. And when I say rescue, I'm not using that word light. This cat was not very well taken care of, literally almost on his deathbed. When she got him, we had to force feed him orally through a syringe just to kind of get him back to health. I think she spent something like close to $1,500 to $2,000 reviving this cat and just throwing so much. This cat was definitely in the beginning a piece of work. His name was Stormy. And he was just that. He was very unfriendly, just very he would have no problem biting you, no problem fighting with you, no problem whatsoever. Wow. And that was because of the past this cat has had. It was abandoned on the streets, so he learned to survive for himself out on the streets for so long. That's the kind of personality that he was just used to. It wasn't until the last 3 or 4 years of having Stormy that he actually started turning into a normal cat and enjoying the things that a normal cat enjoys. And so that was actually, we were really grateful actually to have those years and to see him actually transform into a cat and kind of let loose and relax and accept affection, accept love. But it took a long time for him to transform into that. Stormy died of kidney disease, and when we found out about it, it was too late. And we did take him to the vets, and he did get an IV shot of saline to rehydrate him, which lasted about 5 days, and then which after 5 days later, we had to put him down. But at least we actually had a rare time. So in other words, a lot of times these things happen suddenly, and you don't have a lot of time to say goodbye. I consider that a big gift that we got given. We got given an extra 5 days to actually spend time with him, to actually, really, really just appreciate those last 5 days, the last moments that we had with him. So that's kind of a rare thing that happens. No, you don't always get that. Sometimes it just happens that, oh, well, we've got to put him down because blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. And you've got maybe a couple hours, kind of like what happened with you, Aldwyn. And here's the thing about vets. interesting enough, about, I don't know, 3 years ago, we took my cat off of all processed wet food, and we actually make his food now. So it's all human grade stuff. And when I speak of human grade, when I make him stuff, like I can take and have stuff out of his dish, and sometimes I do. I'll have a bite. So yeah, we make all his food. He gets chicken, he's got turkey, and then he gets occasionally he'll get tuna. And he loves that. But so I've taken him all off of all wet food. And then the other thing too is the only thing he's got left that's processed is his dry food, because I haven't been able to find a holistic dry food that's not out off the walls expensive. So he's got the healthiest version of a dry food that I can get for him just on the regular market without it being too bank breaking. And then when we discovered, around the same time as Stormy, when we discovered that he was entering into stage 1 of kidney disease, that's when I started feeding him water. And interesting enough, as I did that, and we discovered that he had the first very initial stages of kidney disease, because we had to take him into the vets because he was starting to lose weight all of a sudden. That ended up being his thyroid. So we got him on thyroid medication, but also because of the blood work that they did, we found out about his kidney. And that's where I started thinking, in other words, I used my logic head.
Right.
If cats innately, they are desert creatures innately. They don't necessarily drink a lot of water as much as they should. And so this is why a lot of cats will die from kidney disease, because of the fact that they just innately don't drink enough water. They're desert creatures. They're used to that. Fortunately, I was able to catch it in time. So one of his recent tests that he's had, and this is like 2 years later after we've caught it, 2 to 3 years later after we caught it and we caught on to the whole thing, it's seemingly so far looking like he's in remission. And so we've been able, because of, his more holistic natural diet, he's even got some natural supplements I give to him to kind of like supplement some of the nutrition that he might be missing that's normally found in the highly processed wet foods. So we've just kind of been going on this trail of taking care of him more holistically. And the interesting thing about the things that we do with him is I'll go into my vet and I'll explain to him, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's what we've done. And it's almost like his eyes glaze over. Like he doesn't really say much about it. His eyes glaze over and he's just kind of like, they don't say much about it. And so I'm actually researching. I was talking to somebody at the gym a few weeks ago about holistic vets. So I actually got a guy that I want to go see. I just haven't had a chance to go do it because we've also had other needs that we're taking care of with him, which are also other expenses. And so as soon as those are under control, I'm going to further explore more of a holistic veterinary, one that doesn't just kind of glaze over when I talk about the fact that this is what we're feeding him, this is what we're doing with him, and everything's like that.
I think that's a great idea, Ken. And actually, in hindsight, I probably would have been good to take the cat to the vet just to get an annual checkup, even, just to, because actually he was, even a few months before he died, he was getting quite thirsty. He seemed to be drinking quite a bit, and he was starting to lose a little bit of weight, and he wasn't eating as much as he normally did. So there were signs of some slight behavior changes, and maybe if we picked it up early enough and we started to feed him water a lot earlier, or more water, then things could have changed a little bit. We might have been able to extend his life just a little bit. However, he was coming on to 16 years of age in December. So he was already, a good age cat. And they say the average nowadays for domestic cats is 13 to 17 years is about the going rate, although the oldest living cat is 38 years of age. So it just goes to show that you can have an older cat. And I think, whatever you can do to try to help the cat, the better. I mean, generally speaking, I do my best to avoid going to hospitals. I do my best to keep, and I know a lot of vets also will just say, oh, you need this test, you need that test, you got to get this X-ray. And, the bill can end up exorbitant. And do you really need all that stuff? And do you really need all those injections? And, I always think, well, the natural way is often the best. However, I guess the learning here is to look out for those warning signs. And we've been feeding the cat a mixture of canned food. He doesn't eat much dry food. We're giving him chicken that we eat. We're giving him minced chicken. He loved the minced chicken. He loved the cooked chicken. He loved, obviously, no bones because that can get caught in their throat, etc. He loved beef mince, things like that, right? He loved things. And I was speaking to a girlfriend I stayed with in Sydney, Rita, and she said her cat got attacked and he got very skinny and very sick, and she also fed water to her cat over about a month. She said morning and night she was feeding the cat water just with a syringe in the side of the mouth, and she said just tip the head back and then tip it forward so it doesn't sort of choke on the water. So you've got to sort of, there's a way to do it. And her cat now looks so healthy, and he's about 16. He looks as healthy as your cat can. It looks fantastic. And literally up until probably 2 to 3 months before my cat died, he looked really healthy too. So it can happen very quickly. This kind of kidney failure, it can happen in 1 to 2 months, up to a few years even. However, if you can pick up the stage 1 like you did, Ken, and if you think to yourself, well, okay, over the age of 15 for cats, that about half of them likely are going to get some sort of kidney issue or thyroid issue. Actually, the vet said a lot of them get thyroid issues and kidney issues, right, after 15. And so it's really, I guess, just keeping a close eye on your pet and feeding them. Absolutely. I think the human food, because that's also Rita does that. She doesn't give any canned food. And in hindsight, if I get a cat again, I actually want to cut out all canned food and all processed food, ideally.
The other thing too that I did with my cat, which is why he's so receptive to me giving him water, is in the very beginning years of having him, I put a lot of training work in him, kind of breaking a little bit of that free will spirit that all cats have. They're very independent. Well, I was determined to kind of break some of that and instill the message that I'm master, you will obey me. And that's something that not a lot of cats are, will do unless you do the proper training. One of the things that I did with my cat in the very beginning, now some would say that's kind of cruel. Well, not really. He was never hurt or anything like that, but I was sending a very strong message to him. I am master. You will obey me. So whenever he did something that I didn't want him to do, maybe he was curled up on my lap and I was loving him and he would just randomly bite me. I wanted to train him that wasn't okay. So part of that training was me literally taking him, flipping him over on his back so his full stomach was exposed, and then with my hand kind of holding him there until he gave up. When they give up, that's them submitting to you.
Right.
And it kind of sends that message to them. I had to do that quite a few times before the message finally sunk in. And then it got to the point to where I would do that. He wouldn't fight me at all.
Right.
Now, because of some of that early training, and plus I got him leash trained, and there's a whole bunch of other different real cool benefits that came from training him the way I did. I am now reaping a lot of those benefits in these years. He is probably the most obedient cat you'd ever want to see. And he's extremely, extremely smart. He knows certain language that we use. Like he knows what it means when I say, want to go outside. He knows what it means when I say, you want kitty num nums. He knows all of these things He knows at nighttime when I go to bed, most cats, they like to be free to roam at night. He doesn't do that. I will say it's time for bed. And a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of the times when I say those words, he will get down off the couch and he will come in here to the room and he will lay in his spot on my bed. Not a lot of cats do that. But again, that's because of the attentive training that I gave him. And as far as the water goes, though, the next cat I get, I'm going to start very early on in the early years giving that cat some water. I'm not going to wait till the later years like we did with this. There's a lot of things that I'm going to do the next time that are going to be different from the beginning, as far as food, as far as water, as far as all of that. So
yeah, and that's the thing, we don't know until we know, right? And we can say, oh, if I did this, then maybe this one, maybe if I didn't go away, maybe maybe things would have been different. And but the fact is, every single day we are dying. We are one day closer to death every single day, and eventually it's going to happen for all of us, right? And it's one of those things that we don't like to think about. However, the fact is we're all going that way. And so this is where making the most of every moment you have with your pets or with the people in your life is so important, and really tuning into your body for what you feel is right for you when it comes to healthcare. And, we're talking about, of course, accidents, etc. I mean, a lot of animals, a lot of pets get run over, they get hit by cars, or they get attacked by other animals, or there's lots of animals and people that die prematurely. And I was actually just talking to someone who's was in a war-torn country, and there's packs of feral dogs in this war-torn country. It's actually in between India and Pakistan, this area over there, and there's packs of feral dogs that will actually attack humans. And so, it's interesting life we live in, and I think your health is your number one, and you are the best judge of your health. And tuning into, obviously, if you've got pets in your care, tuning into what they need. They are very sensitive, very in tune, very spiritual. They often will go to people. As I was talking to Annie Burke last night, the animal communicator, she was saying they will often go to people where they feel that they need some help or support. They will go to those people. And so they're very loving, they're very forgiving, and they're very, they just come from that pure love, joy space. And it's about being present for yourself, for your own health, and for the health of your animals. And one thing I did with my cat in the early days when he was being a little bit naughty is someone said to me, get a water spray bottle, and you just spray them with water when they're doing something naughty. And that doesn't actually hurt them, right? That doesn't actually hurt.
Well, what I did is, so I didn't quite do the spray bottle. From research that I did, is cats especially don't like it when you like mess with their face. So when he would, so the other method that I had with discipline is when he did something I didn't want him to do, like I just flick his little nose just a little bit and say, no. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt them a bunch, but it gets a point across, it triggers. The only other thing that I did, which was a little bit more aggressive, is when he would spray something and I would catch him hands on spraying something that I didn't want him to spray or whatever, and it wasn't inside his cat box, then he got a spanking. And it was like on his rump, and it was like, whack, whack kind of thing with my hand, to let him know that is not okay. And so some of these things in the beginning, this is what I did. And like I said, I'm reaping the benefits of all of that early training now, because he's like, and he's like all attentive to me, like even to the point to where when I'm getting ready to leave for the gym, he knows I'm getting ready to leave for the gym. And he literally does stuff to delay me leaving from the gym. He'll want food at that moment. He'll want kitty treats at that moment. He'll want something to delay me from leaving from the gym. Some might say, well, you maybe just want to get, no, not every single time. Every single day when I'm getting ready to go out to the gym, the distraction, okay, I got to distract daddy. It starts. And
Yeah.
it could be anything from wanting food to being over possessive of me. So what I mean by over possessive is I'll go over there and I'll go to love him. And as soon as I go to turn around to walk away, he reaches out his paw and he will like clench onto my side as if to say, don't go. You know, these are things that I know very rarely happen with cats. So that's why I'm saying this one's a rare breed. But
cats are very attached to their owners, and this is what Andy was saying as well. Many times I've gone away because I travel 3-4 months of the year, but there's always people around the house to look after my cat. Thankfully cats are fairly independent, but they are very emotionally connected with their owners. And so many times I've had my luggage packed and he's just sat on the luggage, like he knows when I'm going. However, what Annie said to do, she said, when you are going to be leaving your cat, she said a good thing to do is just to communicate and just say, look, darling, I'm just going out for a day or a night or for a week or whatever.
He hates that every time. Yeah, that's something else I'll do. I'll go, I'll be back in a little bit.
Right.
Literally, as soon as I say those words, it activates him. And then that's where the whole thing starts going, because he knows, okay, it's confirmed. Daddy really is leaving. So now I've got to distract daddy. So he, like I said, he understands what's going on.
Amazing. Well, Annie was saying it's good to let them know you're going, but obviously they don't want you to go. They're like children. They're like babies, right? It's like they just want to spend all their time with you. And so I think the more love we can give, the better. And, with animals and with humans, hurt people, hurt animals, animals generally, most animals are very loving and very caring. And, even the animals that are hunters, they will only hunt for what they need for survival. They're not, there's even, you look at tigers and lions, you can look at them at times, you can think, oh my gosh, they're so loving and so beautiful with their families. But when they need food, they're going to hunt and they're going to do what they need to do, and we have pets. We have the great fortune to be able to bring pets into our home like our own children. And I'm so grateful that we've had Tiger for 15 years. And he was such a beautiful boy. And when we got him, he was just like this. He was a little kitten and he was highly anxious. And by the time at his, really it didn't take that long. We just gave him a lot of love, a lot of hugs, and we were able to just cuddle him. So we could just put him across our body and just cuddle him, and he loved it. I shared a whole lot of photos there, and it's hard when you lose a family member, and this is where every single day is so precious, and anything we can do for our health is so important. Your health is really number one priority. And of course, that's your area of expertise, Ken. And we do say question everything. That's our motto on this show. In fact, one of our mottos is question everything. Don't take our word for it, right? Question everything. Do your own research. And, we did get the water into Tiger in the later days, but I believe it was too late, unfortunately. And when your time's up, your time's up. I think no matter what you do, sometimes you want to keep someone alive. But if they're their body's gone or the kidneys are gone or whatever at that point, then you just have to let them go. You have to gracefully be grateful and let them go. And so this show here has been a dedication to Tiger, who we buried this morning. He passed away yesterday. And it's very hard. It's very hard grieving, the tears can come at any moment. And I think it's important to let the tears flow. Express those emotions, because it can be actually very bad for your health if you don't express emotions. And I say, men have tear ducts for a reason too, right? And often underneath anger is often sadness. Often underneath sadness is a lot of anger, However, it's important that we do the best we can, and that, don't beat yourself up over anything. I found myself yesterday beating myself up going, oh gosh, I wish I didn't go away, or I wish I was here with him more, or, that kind of thing. And it just went how it went. I was here when I was here, and I wasn't here when I wasn't here, and there were other people looking after him, and he had a lot of love still in his environment. I didn't just leave him to go feral. However, they do get very attached to their owners, and he would have missed me, and he waited right until I got back before he passed. It was beautiful that he waited. So sending Tiger love out there in the spiritual world. And for all those who have pets or who've had pets that have passed away, my heart goes to you too, because, those that have had pets know what we're talking about here. And those that have had children, like Shirley did, have had children that have passed away. I mean, that's also incredibly traumatic and hard to deal with, having your own children pass away. And that's kind of what it feels like when you have a pet pass away too, that has been like a child. It feels like you've just lost a child, So the cycle of life continues, Ken.
Yes, it does. We may not like it, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So kind of wrapping up and just kind of giving just some last summary points for all you guys still with us, or people listening to the replay. Doctors, the medical system, don't trust it. Go do your own research. Understand that doctors, a lot of them, their heart may be in the right place, but their training, unbeknownst to them, is part of the system. And you must be very careful with prescription medicines and the things that they recommend. They are trained to attach, ailment, attach this medicine. This ailment, attach this medicine. They're not trained to go, oh, you've got that ailment. What may be the actual root cause of it? How can we get to the root cause and help you to fix that root cause? They're not trained to do that. In fact, the ones that do that kind of healing and different things like that, they're scrutinized for it. But they are the ones that are doing the right thing. So take caution in the medical system. All right. I'll give you one last example here. A few years ago, I got a herniated disc in my lower back. And herniated discs are quite painful. Let me tell you, it's the worst pain I've ever been in my life. Never want to be in that kind of pain again. Interesting enough, though, I will say I never actually felt the pain of that herniated disc in my lower back. Instead, it was connected to some sort of weird part of my sciatic nerve. So I didn't have the pain down the back of my leg. It actually wrapped it went from my glute, wrapped all the way around my hip, came down the front of my leg and my quadricep. And then the side of my knee here literally felt like somebody was drilling a hole and screwing something into my knee. I mean, we're talking radiating pain here. And then it also radiated all the way down the front shin of my left leg. And then half of my foot for a while was numb.
Yeah.
And so I dealt with that for a while before I finally decided to seek help. Well, in the beginning, I was going to go through the medical system. But as I was on the phone with the insurance company that I had asking questions, I just had this intuition that I should not go that route. Instead, I ended up contacting somebody else that I knew that did chiropractic work on me in the past. And she had retired from that, but because I still had her business card, I called her and she recommended me to somebody else. I went to go see this guy, got an MRI done and everything else. Because I thought, because of the way it happened in the gym, I thought I ripped some kind of muscle in my back. And so he sent me to go get an MRI to make sure that I didn't have a ripped muscle back there. And so MRIs usually are very expensive. Well, he apparently had this deal with this special MRI office out in Fallbrook, which was a half hour away from me. So as long as you pay cash, it was $250 just to get the MRI, which was just a fraction of what it would have cost. So I got the MRI done and it came out clean. And so he determined that I had the herniated disc and he started doing spine decompression treatments on me. My insurance company would not cover the chiropractic work, but I was glad to pay for it. He also set up, this is a very unique, special guy. He also set up a payment plan for me to where I can make payments on that. And he put me through spine decompression treatments and also help educate me on different exercises that I needed to commonly do at home and different things like that. Plus, adding to that during that journey, I did some self-learning, learning how to take care of the spine better, learning how to do more effective, proper stretches that would prevent that from ever happening again. Now you fast forward to current day, I am 100% fully recovered from that. 100%. No side effects, no nothing. I haven't had a lower back problem in a couple of years. Interesting enough, before that, I used to have a very tight back when I got home from the gym. It didn't matter how much stretching I did. Unbeknownst to me, what I didn't know is that's one of the first stages of getting a herniated disc is when you have a very tight lower back and your back's always tight like that. That's one of the first stages. And I used to struggle with that all the time. Getting up from a chair at night, like I felt like an old person. I would be hunched over and I'd be like, oh my gosh. Now I don't have any of that. And one of the reasons is because I learned proper stretching techniques. I learned how to properly take care of my spine. And so that's just an example. I'm really, really convinced that if I went through the medical system and got traditional stuff done, possibly back surgery, I would not be here today. I would not still be in the best shape of my life because I've been able to hold on to that. So I say all of that and share that story to show you guys going through the medical system is not always the best option. If you can find alternatives that are better, maybe they're a little bit more expensive, then that's what I would go with. I am so grateful for that chiropractor. And I still see him on and off. I'm very extremely grateful because I feel like he gave me my life back, which could have been taken away from me. And I'm speaking of my active life, which could have been taken away from me. And so I'm very, very, very extremely grateful for that. And that's all because I went an alternate route and decided to go a little bit more holistic. So
yeah, brilliant.
That's why I'm sharing that story, you guys. Be careful with the medical system out there. It's not always the best. The doctors might be well-intentioned, but their recommendations are not always the best either. Same goes for vets. Be careful. Be very, very careful, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that story because I've had sciatica over the years that has come and gone at any moment. And it could just be that actually the last time I had it before, it actually just came on last week again, believe it or not. But last time I had it before that is I just got out of my chair a little bit faster, just twisted in a funny way, and it put my sciatica out, and it's basically a pinched nerve, and that's exactly what happens. You get excruciating pain down one side, and in fact I've had it down my left side for years. It's come and gone, and I do believe it was triggered initially by a tetanus shot. A tetanus shot I had about 30 years ago that was in the top of my glute there, in the butt cheek there on the left, and ever since that I've had shooting pain down that left side. And it happened again as I came back from Thailand last Thursday. I lifted my luggage and turned, and I just felt it was like, ow, and literally, and then I came back to a sick cat. My cat wasn't that well even last week before I went to Sydney. And then I was doing all I could to nurture the cat, and then with this pain in my side. And actually, while I was in Sydney, staying with my beautiful friend Rita down there near Botany Bay, Rita and Sal, they brought in this guy who was a Chinese sort of medicine man, and he just went in and he just sort of went in there and he said, bend this way, and he just got in there and manipulated a few things and bent a few things, and it was amazing. Like literally, after he just did a few little movements, I was able to get up and walk around, no problem. All right. Just after a few little, and I mean, it's been a little bit sensitive since. It hasn't completely healed. However, it's so much better than it was literally last week. I could barely get out of bed. I could barely walk to the bathroom. And now it's so much better. So I think definitely look for alternative solutions. And I often go online and I'll look for exercises for sciatica. And there's all sorts of videos on YouTube you can also find where people have different exercises and stretches for people who have sciatica as well.
That's kind of what I did as well as on my own research, because I was just like, what do I do for further spinal care? one of my staple go-tos to kind of keep things where they should be so that this doesn't happen again. It's called dead hangs. And so basically what you do is you go up to a bar and you literally hang there for as long as you can hold that grip. And you concentrate, and because when you do that hang, your back's going to try to hold itself together. It's just a natural response. But you have to literally mentally make your back muscles release and let go so that your spine then starts to decompress and stretch out. And if you do it right, you can literally command each muscle in your back to let go, and you feel it. You feel it. And that's what you want to do. You want to do that like 3 or 4 different times at one time and hang there for as long as you can. And do that like at least 3 or 4 times per week. The other key thing that I recognized is I used to do a lot of what's called static stretching. And that's where you stretch and then you hold the position for a long period of time. That's called static stretching. It is not as helpful as a lot of people might think it is. The only time now I do static stretching is after I've worked out my legs. Then I will do static stretching after that particular workout. Most of the other times I'm doing more functional active stretching. And this is where, I'm moving in a position and I might be in that position for 1 to 2 seconds. And then I move to another side, 1 to 2 seconds. So a lot of this you can, and a lot of these are kind of like more yoga movements and different things like that are directed towards the spine and directed towards areas that are going to help stretch your spine, help mobilize your spine. The results don't happen overnight. Over time of staying consistent with those methods, you eventually put your spine back in a very healthy position.
I love that.
So
I think
those are some tips.
Great tips there. Great tips. And another thing I love is yoga. And I must say, having been away lately, I haven't been doing much yoga. Sometimes I'll do stretches just before I get out of bed and things like that. But I love yoga. And I find that a lot of yoga moves will also help put you back into place as well. And just stretching the body out is so good for you. And deep breathing, of course. And so grateful for life right now, Ken. And as much as I've been grieving the last 24 hours of beautiful Tiger's passing, it's made me even more grateful to be here and to be alive and to have been able to gift a beautiful cat such a beautiful long life. 16 years nearly he lived, but 15 years together, so many experiences you go through with the people in your life. And, life is sharing, and it's really about appreciating and really being present with the people you're with when you're with them. And it actually, as our beautiful, we've got Ken here. Ken Dunner has joined us. I love Ken. He puts some beautiful things on LinkedIn here. Savor the flavor of the awesomeness in you peeps for sharing your delectable, scrumptiously, deliciously, edibly tasty, good, heartfelt thoughts with us tonight. Now that is just so beautiful, Ken. I love the gratitude I'm hearing in that, the beauty in what you're sharing. It's the simple things in life that are often the best. And I think whatever we can do to empower ourselves when it comes to health and when it comes to our own safety, whether we're working for others or working for ourselves, a lot of our people are entrepreneurs. And it's making time to also have some time out. This Sunday, I'm going to be going through another process of grieving. I'll be going to the beach with some girlfriends. And something I did also to help the grieving process with my beautiful Tiger was I actually wrote down a beautiful little letter to my cat Tiger last night. I wrote this down. I lit a candle for him. I did a sage cleanse. And, I found that very helpful to do that with my beautiful Tiger. And so whatever it is for you, I think, make time to nurture yourself, to honor those around you who've been, those who may have come into our life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Cat energy and people energy may return in other spirits as well. So, it doesn't mean necessarily gone forever. I do believe we'll all meet again. We'll all meet again on the other side, when we pass over to the higher dimensions. And I think gratitude is the thing. So I'm actually going to start my 8-day Global Good News Challenge today, Ken. I'm inspired, and I'm going to be sharing some learnings that I got from my life with Tiger, my 15 years with Tiger, or Tiger's life with me, or the sharing of 15 years together with a beautiful cat, and all the learnings from that. I'll share that over the next 8 days with the Global Good News Challenge. And that is a practice of gratitude, the attitude of gratitude, and it is a practice. It's like going to the gym. It's very easy to get into whinge mode, to complain and to moan and to groan and to think, what if, and to live with regret and to go through the guilt and grief and sadness and all that stuff. And I think, yes, there's times we go through those emotions. However, the sooner we can turn it around, turn it back to gratitude, the sooner that we'll have a much greater experience of life, and we will also be given more to be grateful for. So in wrapping up today, Ken, how can people connect with you, and any final thoughts on what we're just talking about there?
So no more final thoughts. So you can connect with me through my link tree. Do you have that thing called?
Yeah, I'll pop that up. Yep, here we go. Okay.
And so those of you listening by audio, it is www.linktree.ee/FatFighterKen. And on that link, there are 3 things I'm going to draw your attention to, and they're all at the top of the list. There's other links on there, but these 3 are the most important. So one is a link to join my Facebook group. Join that group. You're going to get a lot of really good, valuable stuff in there. Some great health tips and all kinds of different things. Did a live in there today, basically about leveling up your confidence level to a level that you didn't know existed. And what that entails is getting your health and body to the point to where when you're on camera, doesn't matter what angle the camera takes on you, you love that angle. When you get up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror, you're not just looking at yourself for a couple seconds. You're doing some poses. You're doing different things because you're loving it. And what being at that level in your health and your fitness and with your ideal weight basically does is it brings your confidence to a different level, which also means in your business, guess what? That's going to bring your income to another level too. So that's a big key. So just an example of some of the stuff that you'll find in that group. The second thing that'll draw your attention to is my calendar link to book an appointment with me. If you want to lose some weight, and you're stuck and you just don't know what to do and how that works and where to go, and you're tired of going from one thing to another and always gaining the way back, you can't keep it off, book an appointment with me. I'd love to be able to work with you and see what direction we can point you in. Lastly is there's a link to my website on there. You can go on my website, find out all about me, find my story. Link to my own personal podcast is on there. There's a whole bunch of there's even an evergreen masterclass on there that's just running. There's a little bit of old stuff. There's a lot of new stuff that I need to put in there, but the masterclass will also be beneficial. So those are the 3 links.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ken. And that link again is linktree/FatFighterKen, linktree, linktr.ee/FatFighterKen. And that's the podcast too. You can check out Ken's other podcast as well. And for those who want to connect with me, you can go to linktree/Aldwyn, has all my links, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. We're all about inspiring more truth and good news in the world. And if you would like to join our Good News Crusaders and have the chance to win prizes and feel amazing about your life and lift the energy on the planet, help to decrease depression and suicide rates, then I challenge you to join the Global Good News Challenge. We've just celebrated our 3rd anniversary recently for the Global Good News Challenge that happened in June. And we've just had the 5th annual Good News Day as well on the 8th of the 8th, which was just last week as well. We had the 5th annual Good News Day. The 8th of the 8th happens every year. So for details on that, there's also a link here, facebook.com/Good News Challenge. And you can see all the details pinned to the top of that page, how to participate. It's absolutely free. For August, we have an 8-day challenge. You can start anytime in August, and just a simple live video on social media, sharing your name, what you do, 3 things you're grateful for, and a piece of good news minimum. Okay. And then hashtag Global Good News Challenge. We'll share it out everywhere for you. It's great free marketing. You'll feel amazing when you get into gratitude, and so will the people in your life. I also invite you to like our Total Truth Show page. We have a page there on Facebook. You can check out all our previous 36 episodes or so that we've had up till now. We're also on BitChute, on Rumble. We've been streaming this today to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. So you'll see us in all those places as well. So please connect. Let us know what you thought of the show today. That would be wonderful. And also, I've just launched a brand new program. Ken, you may or may not be aware. It's called Launch Your Own Global TV Show. Very excited about that. And we're giving someone a chance to win the program worth $3,333. You can win it if you go to the link in Eventbrite. Just follow me on Eventbrite, which is in my link tree. You'll see my Eventbrite there. Follow me there and you'll see our event there. Thursday night, we're going to be announcing 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which will probably be about midnight for you, Ken, on the Wednesday night. So hop along there, follow me in Eventbrite, and you'll see that you've got the chance to win this Thursday. And then next Thursday, I'm going to be doing a webinar on this topic. So stay tuned for that. I haven't done any events for nearly the whole year. I haven't actually run any events other than a few physical events, but I haven't done any webinars actually since January. So this is very exciting now. Launch Your Own Global TV Show. So connect on Eventbrite. And very excited there. So Ken, wrapping up, we always love to do this with share our favorite quote or a quote for the moment. Would you like to share one for today?
Yeah, gonna do my usual one. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. That is by Donald J. Trump.
I love it. Thank you, Ken. And for me, I'm going to share one from Margaret Mead today, and that's a small group of thoughtful people can change the world. And in fact, it's the only thing that ever has. And I'm very grateful to say that we changed the world for this little beautiful cat. And this show's been dedicated to Tiger, who went from very anxious and very scared when we got him when he was 1, and to be the most loving, beautiful cat in the next 15 years and having a beautiful home. And so blessings to all those who have little fur babies and all those who are caring for family members and caring for those around you. A little bit of kindness can go a long way. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please let us know in the comments wherever you are tuning in, or if you're on iTunes, or we're on all the podcast channels as well with Total Truth Shows. So check us out there as well, and love to know what you think. Let us know. What did you get out of this show? What's something maybe you're going to do differently moving forward in your life for your own health and for your own, family and longevity, and really to make the most of this beautiful experience of life. Thank you so much for joining us. Ken, any final words?
Not at all.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's been great co-hosting with you, Ken. Thank you so much. I love doing this show, and thank you for joining us. And let us know, as a bonus, what are you grateful for today? Let us know in the comments. What are you grateful for today? And we love to hear where you're from as well. So let us know, where have you joined us from today? Sending you all lots of love. This is my love heart. Mwah. Have a magnificent day or night wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you next time here on Total Truth Show. Thank you so much. Bye for now.